Belinda Smith, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jordan. It's nice to be here.
No, I'm super excited. You're going to be a really interesting one today. I think a lot of previous guests that we've had on are predominantly sort of buyers agents or mortgage brokers or sort of built their own larger portfolios over a big point of time. And you are the renovation queen, but we haven't really had any sort of renovators on before, which well probably renovators in their own right, but it's what you do morning, day, and night, and I absolutely love what you do and your whole philosophy around things. So I'm scared and excited to share your story with the listeners.
I'm a scary woman.
No, it's gonna be good because it's
In
not
lots of
something that
ways.
when I say scary, it's not that it's something that I haven't gone in and done like I want to do a huge renovation. I mean, I've done like a few cosmetic things, like maybe a 5 grand reno or something like that. And so when I look at a renovation, it's not that I think it's scary, but like it is a bigger thing to do. And I just love the topic. So I'm keen to delve into anything. But to get us kick started, I mean, what do you feel like your philosophy around building a portfolio would be?
My philosophy is to flip a home for chunks of cash. Like at some point, there has to be some kind of income. It's either you're in a decent paid salary or you have a decent salary to support your property portfolio, or you need to do flips or some way to bring in a chunk of cash. You need money, right? And then I love buy and holds. Like I really do like property that can be held for a long period of time. And I love property that has some decent cash flow. So you're not, diving your hand into your pocket all the time to support that property and maintenance issues and all that kind of stuff. So that's it in a nutshell. I think, a bit of cash here and there injected into a portfolio and hang on for the long term. And I think of some of my properties that I've had since 2003 and 2004 that have served me very well.
Yes, it's a super interesting way to look at it. And I think, especially doing that renovation earlier on in building out a portfolio is great because you're sort of manufacturing that equity and then you can release that equity to allow you to keep going. I haven't really done the sort of like the flipping property, so the renovate hard and then sell and go again. But how do you see like those two in conjunction? Is there like when you're going for a particular property for either of those scenarios, is it very specific in what you're going out for? Like would you separate a property if you were going to flip it, so buy it, renovate it, and then sell it, compared to buy, renovate, and then hold over the long term? Like, how do you look at the? Could they be the same properties, or do you look at them sort of differently?
Oh, they could be the same properties, but I think it's really smart to look at them differently. For example, I like commercial property too. Like I've got a commercial property in my portfolio, and I grabbed that property on purpose. It had renovation potential for a start, but had really good cash flow. So I thought, okay, that's going to fit into that little part of my portfolio. I started my journey with my husband out of necessity because we were broke young people. We met when we were 14 and 16, but married at 20, engaged at 21, 22. We'd already renovated a unit by then. We were building a house at 22, 23. So we were youngsters. We had hardly any money. I was in the police force. He was a mechanic by trade. And so, but we just kind of did it. We bought this old unit and we did it up and we flipped it. And then the next property we did, we bought an old house. We were going to renovate it, but it was really beyond it when we looked at the property itself. It was so bad, smelly and awful and bad, like bad. So we knocked it over and we built alongside a builder. And that was a big part of our journey, just to learn our skills as building, as so not only have we done a quick cosmetic flip, but we'd also learned to build a property. So my husband he's mechanical, but he just really took to it. And then we just started to learn about property through property education groups. And that's when I started to really understand the benefits of holding onto property long-term, using equity, picking properties that could sustain themselves. Because again, our cash flow problems or our salary problems weren't solved at that point. We just had ourselves in a really nice house. We created plenty of equity and we started to invest off the back of that. And we knew we were going to hit the lending wall pretty fast. So, it's just having a renovation to kind of keep you going Anyway, in short, we've done lots of trading of properties. We've held on to plenty. We've never lost money on any deals, but there's been lots of opportunity passed us by where we've, picked the occasional one that wasn't so great for us.
Yeah, there's always that opportunity cost, hey, when you like I'm looking at buying property in the Gold Coast at the moment, and what was selling for like 900 2 years ago is now selling for 1.6, 1.7. I'm like, man, if only I got in 2 years ago, like
Yeah.
it's nearly doubled in value, and there's always that opportunity cost. But you could never pick the perfect one at any point in time and know exactly what's going to happen into the future. So I think you're almost going to have opportunity cost with everything. And one thing that I heard that blew my mind originally was, every single property in Australia is going to have the opportunity cost of just one property. There's only one property in the country that outperformed every other property. And so like, doesn't really matter. Like it depends how big the opportunity cost is, but most of the time you are going to have opportunity cost and you're just going to be comfortable with that. But it's
Yeah.
good to learn that you've never burnt yourself or, you've always made money off renovation. I think that's awesome. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, you go.
No. And I think I've renovated it a bit of a stinge sometimes. So I haven't overcapitalized on any of the renovations. So I think that's been helpful. I've been able to sit back and just not tear everything apart and understand the market and the demographic and renovate accordingly. So that's been good.
That's definitely a big one, that overcapitalization, right? When people just chuck way too much money into a reno and then they can't get it back. So if you had to go back to young Belinda when you first started out building the portfolio, what would you go back and tell yourself if you could?
I would say be braver. There were times where we sat on some equity for far too long and we weren't, I guess we had 3 kids in 3 years and amongst it too. So, and they were sporty kids. So they're playing in the state cricket team and the this and the that. So, the average parent does the same thing. That's fine. But in amongst it, I definitely I took my foot off the accelerator a little bit. And like you just said before about that property that's now worth 1.6 or something, there were so many deals like that passed us by. And I guess we bought, 7 or so properties in the 18-month period back in 2000 and 2003 and 2004. So I took my foot off the accelerator. So I kicked myself a little bit for doing that.
Yeah, it's always when you look back, I mean, it's so busy though. Like we've got a 2-year-old at the moment, and I can understand why. Like most of we were just talking off air beforehand, and my 2-year-old ran in and said hello. But I just understand how you can get so consumed by it all because like whenever
Yeah.
I'm not in front of a computer screen, I'm chasing her around or looking after her or taking her somewhere. So yeah, it's tough, and when you look back, it does make it hard. But yeah, anyway. I think you've had a pretty good journey anyway. It's just trying to go back and see if we can re-spark it and continue to pursue the things as we start to go along. Now there might not be anything you want to change about your current portfolio, but if there was, what would it be, or what sort of mistakes did you make along the journey?
I think that before I got really deep into property education and understood how to run the numbers myself and trusted my own judgment, I was listening to people who had some kind of vested interest in telling me where the best hotspot was. And usually they were developers with properties sell there. And I was just kind of wandering all over the place. And we actually bought in a town off my husband's first cousin said, this is a great area. So we ended up buying in there. And it wasn't a bad area, but it was his viewpoint about how good the area was. And that was just right at the beginning of our education. Had I, once I did the feasibilities and the education, I realized that I could have bought in a much better place.
One thing I'm super excited to talk to you about is your course. I've heard phenomenal things, and I'm so appreciative to be a part of it as well. I think it's incredible what you do and what you teach. And again, we are just talking off air about like the different types of your 3 different levels, which I think are all very unique and individual and required to their own degree. But when did you go from starting those like original renovations and learning everything, going through that build, understanding how to go through a build, and then decide that you actually wanted to turn it into more of a career rather than just something that you did on the side? How did that journey look like? And was there like a light bulb moment or anything like that?
Yeah, there was a light bulb moment. I was in the police force for 21 years and I was doing renovations and property on the side. And I just had a moment. I'd been to a siege that day and just didn't get home to pick up the kids from school and just thought, what am I doing? I'm going to get shot or killed or something's going to happen. So I need to make that change. And because property was my love, it was a natural thing to head into that. But then again, when I left, it's like I needed the salary to support loans so that the income to support loans so that we could keep growing our portfolio. So I thought, okay, why not just start teaching people about renovating? Because people were asking me questions anyway. So I thought I'll just help people on their projects. And then one thing led to the next. We started a Facebook group. I actually met up with a girl I went to school with. We started together, started a Facebook group. And then after the Facebook group grew to like 12,000, helping people for free. Then we just put a course together and we started to run some simple workshops and it just evolved. So now the program is in 3 sections, really. One's learn to renovate. The second section is if people jump into our program and even though they have all of the information they need to renovate well, they're still feeling like they need some more support, then our reno coaches will support them through a renovation. And then I teach people who want to make it a career the same as I did and become a renovation consultant. I teach them how to do that. So it's the whole business setup and the marketing and getting them clients and all that kind of stuff. So it's not something that happened overnight. It really just rolled along. My passion for renovating, my love of homes, even on my time off, I'm always reading Home Beautiful magazines and all that kind of stuff. My love of property, leaving the police force and wanting to do something different. But something in the property space that could support me growing my portfolio.
It's so cool to see the 3 different levels and like you can totally see how over time they would have developed and come about themselves individually. Like I'm sure you would have had people who went through just the like learn how to renovate course and then maybe needed a bit more of a hand and that sort of delved and grew into its own thing. And then, yeah, you probably had people who wanted to start a business out of it and came to you for that advice. And I think it definitely is needed. Like I think I'm going through that process as well as is your passion you start a business from, you turn into a business and you start to generate some income from it and you still love it and it's still your passion every day. But then, if you're running a business, there's other business things that you have to look after and manage and understand. So I love that you give that whole package in terms of all the marketing and all the additional services that you get in there. So it's so cool. And I just love to see the whole process from end to end. It's well done. You've done a really good job from it.
Oh, thank you. And it's been exciting learning it all. Like I never, honestly, as the old senior constable on the police truck on night shift to doing what I'm doing now, poles apart. And I've just loved, having a go. Just having a go is my theory.
It's good. I love it. And, it's a lot of people don't give it a go. Like they're quite happy in their 9 to 5 job. And I guess this is part of what the podcast is all about is, getting people excited to pursue their passion. And I think, one of the hardest, like I spent 10 years on the corporate ladder and the biggest fear for me was what if it doesn't work out? Or what if I don't have that income or, and all the things that do keep you in that day job. But at the end of the day, it's worst case scenario. If you've got some buffers, why not give it a crack? And worst thing is you can go back and do what you were doing beforehand. So I love that you stepped out and it's so good to see not only your course grow, but you grow and your staff grow. You're up to 12 now, which is incredible. So well done. Now, there's a fair few of them out there. I don't think we've had a renovation one, but if you had one favorite property one-liner, what would it be?
Make your own luck. That's what I say. Like if you've got an old property and you've got the potential to add some value to that property, why not do it? And I'm fascinated with the amount of people they're throwing their money into the Powerball that was on last week. And, people will throw their money at lottery tickets. And I think there's so much opportunity in the renovation space just to get some kind of income happening, some kind of profit.
It is crazy, isn't it? You can it's gambling essentially if they go out and do that. Whereas if if you make an informed decision around, okay, this is going to be my overheads, this is going to be my costs, this is how long it's going to take, etc., etc., and then this should be the price that we should get. as a return, it's less gambling and more of a calculated decision. But yeah, I think,
Yeah, it's way more predictable,
yeah.
way more predictable than anybody thinks. Yeah.
Well, it's a good one. I like it. Make your own luck. Um, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure catching up. I'm lucky enough to get to catch up with you every now and then, which is always fun. And I've been on your podcast, which I absolutely loved. But I'll have to get you back sometime.
And thank you. And thank you. And I love your game plans too, because everybody who comes to me to do a renovation, half of them don't know what to do with their property portfolio, how to look forward, with the properties that they already own and what it's going to look like in 10, 20 or 30 years time. So I know you've got an amazing product too. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for the feedback. Well, thanks again for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jordan.